I'm Jayati Ghosh. I teach economics at JNU in New Delhi. I'm particularly concerned about the status of women and how it affects their nutrition because it also permeates public policy, and there are three areas that I want to highlight in terms of how this lack of adequate attention to nutrition is affecting women. The first is actually in terms of seeing this as a huge problem. For example, in India, we have now the largest hungry population in the world, and our calorie consumption has actually fallen, even for the bottom 40%. But it is not seen as an emergency in the country. It is not seen as something that must be the first thing that the government addresses. So the first point is simply to bring to the forefront the importance of nutrition of every citizen, including obviously women and girls. But the second is to recognize the role of women as cultivators and to make it possible for them to actually participate in equal terms and to be able to better to provide food, not just for their families but for the market. Women who are cultivating are often not recognized, they don't have land titles, they're not seen as farmers, so they don't get access to credit, to inputs, to technology, and therefore they cannot compete on the same level. Because of this, women who are critically important in the production of food are often the last to receive adequate amounts of food. But the third has to do also with the whole issue of public distribution and how public distribution of food does not recognize the need for every individual, and not just households, but every individual, including the women and the girl children, to have access to adequate nutrition. And because of that, because we have and we assume that households can decide on their own, let's say through cash transfers, we often tend to undermine the access of women and girls when they critically need it to most basic nutrition. But this is also part of the fact that we increasingly believe that all of these public services, including the provision of nutrition, can be run on the backs of underpaid and under-supported workers. So we have women workers who are now responsible for running some of the largest schemes in the world. The ICDS, the Integrated Child Development Scheme, which is supposed to provide nutrition to women, lactating mothers and babies. The health scheme, the National Rural Health Mission. All of these rely on the underpaid labor of women workers who are not provided even the minimum wage or the adequate means whereby to actually fulfill their jobs. Now, this not just does this enhance the inferior status of women and reinforce the fact that they're not treated as equal members of society, but it means that we are adding to an accumulation process which is fundamentally exploiting the underpaid labor of women for achieving these high growth rates, even while they are contributing to the emergency in nutrition that is occurring in large parts of the world. I'm delighted to be part of this conversation on what is an extremely important issue for all of humanity, and I really hope that many more people will join and give their proposals and make very, very strong policy recommendations that we can use to make the global food system a much more just one for women.